Chapter 72. Exit, please. Summary. They've got into Space IKEA, but how do they get out? It felt like Izuku had been momentarily pulled out of some time-blind daze. They were here for 5 hours already? It honestly felt like they just arrived. Losing track of time in Earth IKEA wasn't too bad, because it didn't take more than a few hours to make your way through everything, even at a snail's pace. But here? He thought that the cashier had been exaggerating when he said you could get lost for days. The map they'd seen was honestly a nightmare. There was no point in even trying to decipher it. They'd asked an employee for help, but they'd just been pointed to a self-service station, which only lets you search up products. And while Denki, Mei, and Pyerpa had a fun time key smashing to see if anything would pop up, he and the other only sane people, Kacchan and Fastel, tried to look for a way out. Mina and Ochako were way too comfortable with the prospect of wandering through IKEA for a few more hours, so they were no help. At first, Kacchan had pointed out the obvious green emergency exit signs, but when they followed them to a door, the door turned out to be fake. As in they could walk around to the other side of it, which was incorporated into a living room setting. Oh, also the handle did a 360 turn when he tried to open it. If the fake doors littered around the place weren't dystopian enough, there were also fake windows mocking them. Screen displays half hidden behind curtains and such, displaying images of the outside world. Specifically, scenes from Earth. They couldn't stray far from the self-service station where the others were still entertained, but everywhere he could see pictures of green trees and buildings. This was a fucking nightmare. Space IKEA was just an endless maze of hallways. How were they supposed to get out? Then, IKEA went dark. Izuku startled under the auxiliary lighting, bathing the halls in a low glow, as a voice rang out over the announcement system. The store is now closed. As he looked around, he saw only the 7 other members of their group. How had he not noticed everyone clearing out? And wasn't Space IKEA supposed to be a 24-hour thing? Had he read that wrong? Maybe it was a space holiday. Fucking hell! Katsuki shouted into the silence, echoing ominously through the endless halls. Pyerpa's tail drooped, swishing nervously. Are we gonna get in trouble? I don't think you're supposed to be in a store after it closes. Forget getting in trouble, Denki rebutted. We might never get out. Who knows how long this will be closed? Don't overreact, Mina teased. I'm sure we can find our way out. Izuku leaned forward, looking into the never-ending halls. Yeah, he's sure they'll be fine. The only reason Mei knew that they'd been searching for an exit for 20 minutes was because that's what the tablet said. If you'd asked her, she wouldn't be able to say. What she would be able to say was that she was sure there was something behind this weird time blindness. Maybe a chemical in the air or machine giving off a certain frequency. Whatever it was, she wanted to know, and she was betting the secrets were in those passages behind the walls. While they wandered, she scoured the nooks and crannies for any discrepancy, anything that would indicate a secret entrance. Mei Hatsume was an expert secret passage finder, thanks to UA and its mysteries. Rat God indirectly taught her many great truths of life, and one of those truths was that the walls have ears. But joke's on you, walls, she also has ears. So she listened. In the endless silence of IKEA after dark, she listened for any whispered lies the walls may give. And eventually, she heard one. They were in some sort of appliance section. Stoves, dishwashers, fridges lined the walls, but more importantly, washing machines. One washing machine in particular, up against a wall, released the smallest sound that could easily have been written off as nothing more than a figment of imagination. What couldn't be written off as her finally going crazy was how everyone else whipped their heads towards the now open machine when a hooting yelp of surprise sounded. It was one of those machines that opened from the side, so from her position crouched down in front of the opening, door in hand, she could see the hidden tunnel that stretched in either direction. as well as the person fallen backwards on their hands, bundled in a navy patchwork cloak. Luminescent, wide yellow eyes stared back at her, and a similarly colored beak clicked a few times. They looked like one of those cute owls that nested outside her house one summer. Their little tree hollow had been right across her bedroom window. Brown, tawny feathers covered them, the ones by their neck rimmed in gold. Colorful threads were braided with some of their feathers, similar to the threads that stitched patterns into their cloak. Mei grinned at the familiar sight, the same one that led them into the tunnels in the first place. "Hello!" "Ah!" they squawk, scrambling up to their feet. "Do you like tunnels as well?" Mei asks, sticking her head into the washing machine. "Because I really like tunnels. The rat god created the ones in my last haunt. Do you mind showing us around these ones?" The owl person just stared at her, beak continuing to clack. "Slow down, Mei," Izuku squeaked. He knelt down beside her, peering into the washing machine. "Sorry, I know she can be a bit much. You're the one who helped us before, right?" The owl person nodded jerkily, shrinking into their cloak. Just their wide eyes were visible, flitting between multiple points. Mei looked over her shoulder to see the rest of the group was now gathered in front of the washing machine. "Hey," Mina said, voice softer than usual. "Do you know the way out?" They shook their head. "There is no way out. There is only IKEA." Mei likes this person. Izuku ventured. "What's your name?" "Aiki." "Aiki, what do you mean when you say there's no way out? You seem to know your way around here pretty well, plus you found us in the ball pit. That place is close to the entrance." They let out a little chirp. "The only way out of Small Land is through the ball pit. The true exit is more difficult to escape than jail, even when they close." "Why the fuck is it so secure?" Katsuki scoffed. Izuku shook his head. "Okay, Small Land is not an option. You must know some other way out." Aiki stared into Izuku's eyes. Mei watched him squirm as the teen spoke again. "I got separated from my parents and have been here ever since." Ochako's smile was sympathetic. "How long ago was that?" 12 years. Dinky made a sound like a dying horse. 12 years? I was right. We're gonna die here. "How are you even alive?" Mina gaped. "In the restaurants, people put their trays on carts when they're done, so I take whatever's left." The others shuddered, but Mei didn't think that was too bad. Most people didn't tend to lick every inch of their food they don't eat. Plus, she has no right to judge. If she finds a piece of candy on the floor, it goes into the food hole, wrapper or not. You could lure her to death if you left a trail of Skittles. No doubt. "How about you stick with us, and we can find a way out together?" Mina asked, but Aiki just shook their head. "IKEA is my home now." Izuku's brow furrowed. "Don't you want to get out and live your life?" They jerked their head no. "This is the perfect place for someone of my species. Rafters to glide through, so many things to collect, hollows to make my home. Anything I need I take, from the store or from people. Plus, IKEA has free Wi-Fi." Mei definitely sees the appeal. If IKEA was a mechanics store, she'd be tempted to settle down. No need for interaction with other living beings, everything you could ever need at your fingertips, food, water, and shelter taken care of indefinitely. The dream. Mei was so caught up in dreaming about tech IKEA that she didn't react when Aiki suddenly scurried off through the walls. There were some shouts of, "Wait!" and "Come back!" But it was no use. They were gone. Mei knew there was no catching a wall gremlin in their own domain. Regardless, Aiki had given Mei just what she wanted. Access to the tunnels. Being right in front of the washing machine, she didn't hesitate to slip right into the odd little crawl space. IKEA secrets, here she comes. They'd been wandering the dimly lit tunnels of IKEA for quite some time, with no sign of Aiki or the exit. Still, Izuku wasn't too bothered. Once the store opens, he's sure they can find their way out again, even if they just follow someone the whole way through. It would be annoying to have to wait, but they wouldn't be stuck here. So Izuku was putting his energy into enjoying the tunnels. And oh boy, were they enjoyable. While not quite on the level of the UA tunnels and vents, these were still awesome. The passages went everywhere in the store, exits stationed every once in a while. He'd popped his head out to find it sticking out of a laundry hamper, a fake plant, a high-up kitchen cabinet, a painting, a fake door, a literal part of the wall that blended in seamlessly, a step of one of those fake stairs they sometimes have, a couch cushion, and so many other weird places. And the tunnels even extended above and below the main show floor. The tunnels under the floor were much shorter, only accessible when crawling. The tunnels over the room were ladders that led to the ceiling beams. The teens had fun running and jumping across them, even if Ochako had to pop down to grab someone more than once. The one time Izuku fell, he'd instinctively used float to stop himself from hitting the ground. And then, he'd even been able to use it to float back up all by himself to the beams. His practice sessions on the forest planet really paid off. His control wasn't great by any means, but it was usable. Plus, this was a great place to practice even more. They'd dipped back into the tunnels not too long ago, and had finally come across something that stood out. A softly glowing screen affixed to a wall laid in front of them. 2 buttons present on its display. One said, Basic. The other said, IKEA Spurk. What does the second button say? Mina asked, leaning in to expect the scene. Denki shrugged after no one answered. It's in IKEA language. No one knows. Should we click the basic option? Ochako mused, fluidly stepping out of the way as Mei scuttled by her feet, inspecting the tech. I don't see why not, Izuku said, pressing the button when no one rejected the idea. Instantly, new words took over the screen while a keypad appeared at the bottom, little arrow buttons bordering the text. Just one sentence took up the top half, printed in bold black. It read, What does the fox say? What? Did it want them to type out the sound the animal made? What sound do foxes even make? It was a chittering, right? Would the word chittering be right? What if they only got one chance to answer the weird IKEA riddle? Maybe they should just see what the arrows brought them to. Any ideas? Izuku asked. Kachan scoffed. It's fucking dumb. Why are we wasting our time with this instead of getting out? Yeah, no clue, Denki replied, ignoring Katsuki and pressing in the arrow. A new phrase appeared. Before Izuku could see what it was, Denki moved to the keypad. Oh, I know this one! Izuku's heart picked up a little at the idea of Denki getting the answer wrong, but he did seem confident. Still, he moved his head around Denki to see what was on the screen. Is this the Krusty Krab? Izuku reads, confusion clear in his voice. Without missing a beat, Denki replies, No, this is Patrick, in an odd voice, just as he types in the final letters. Izuku was pretty sure he had been going for some sort of imitation, and even though Izuku wasn't sure how it was supposed to sound, he could feel in his bones that Denki was way off. The sound of shifting wood and metal groans from behind them make Izuku whip around in an instant. The group watches as a part of the wall retracts on itself, revealing a secret room that had been opened. Unlike the cramped tunnels, this room looked big enough to fit all of them comfortably, side by side. So Izuku crept forward. Another screen lay on top of a slanted pillar that was as high as his chest. Shelves lined the room and boxes littered the floor. They had an odd assortment of things, the only real thing in them linking them together being that they were all distinctly from Earth. Most of it was non-perishable snacks. Popcorn, tea bags, peanut butter, and crackers, canned food, including pineapple. Denki is gonna like that. A whole bunch of spices, chocolate, hot chocolate, and coffee. How Izuku has missed his hot bean water. It shouldn't be too hard to put together a coffee maker, right? Even though he really wanted that coffee right now, even if that meant just shoving a handful of coffee grounds into his mouth. He really wanted to see what was on the screen. So he fully entered the room and to the glowing pillar. This one didn't have a keyboard, just a long block of text written in Basic. Hello, Terran adventurer. If you found this room, then you have passed the "Are you a robot?" test, but are you a Terran instead? What do you get for solving the riddle? IKEA lore, of course. As you may know, IKEA was founded by Ingvar Kamprad, but he did not work alone. After an odd incident in his youth, Ingvar ended up being helped back to Terra by a friendly family of otherworldly sentients. One thing led to another, and soon enough, Ingvar invited them to be business partners in his new startup, IKEA. The two families have worked together in secret for generations, leading to the universal success of IKEA. Well, Izuku guessed that answered his question on whether IKEA was from aliens or humans. Turns out, kinda both. As you are far from home, Terran traveler, feel free to help yourself to any of the goods that surround you, included in all space IKEAs as per contract. Please note that all communications with our Terran business partners have been temporarily halted with the situation occurring on Terra, and the no-contact order from the Galactic Alliance. After this issue has been resolved, feel free to contact the main headquarters and ask the same question that led you to this room to be connected with one of our family members if you have any further questions. Well, guess that's where the IKEA lore stopped for now. Izuku would have to call them after Earth's whole being introduced to the greater cosmos thing was sorted out. He was really curious about the time blindness and whether it was tech or straight up magic. He could never be sure with IKEA.